All right, let's get into it. We're going to break down how to make sure that brilliant ideas don't just disappear inside of great companies. So, let's kick things off with a question that's probably a little too familiar. Why do genuinely good ideas so often die inside otherwise successful organizations? We've all seen it happen. We're going to dig into why that is and, way more importantly, what you can actually do to fix it. Here's the roadmap for our chat. We'll start with why ideas fail. Then meet the person who can save them, the intrapreneur, and the support crew they absolutely need. After that, we'll tackle the big clash between running the business and reinventing it. And we'll wrap up with a really practical checklist you can use. Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, we first need to meet the hero of our story, the intrapreneur. So what exactly is intrapreneurship? Well, based on some great work by Neessen and their colleagues, it's basically this. You can think of an intrapreneur as an entrepreneur who works on the inside. They're the ones who take the initiative, they aren't afraid to break a few routines, and they actively go out and build networks to grab onto new opportunities and create something valuable. And listen, we're not just talking about tiny little tweaks here. Intrapreneurship is what leads to whole new business ventures, brand new services, new processes. It can actually renew the entire strategy of a company. I mean, the classic example is the Post-it note at 3M, right? It was a failed experiment for a superglue that a determined intrapreneur turned into a billion-dollar product. It is the engine for real, game-changing innovation.
But, and this is a huge but, the intrapreneur absolutely cannot do it alone. To have any chance of success, they need a dedicated support system around them.
A successful idea needs a whole team. Of course, you've got the intrapreneur, the one with the original idea, but you also need a champion to help push it through the organization. Then you need a power champion or a sponsor who gives it a budget and, crucially, political protection. You'll also need an expert champion for credibility, a process champion to help navigate all the red tape, and a relationship champion to build bridges and networks. It is absolutely a team sport.
So, if you remember one thing, make it this. Without those key roles, especially a sponsor to protect that new idea from the corporate immune system and a process owner to guide it through, the journey from idea to impact is pretty much impossible. The idea gets stranded.
But okay, let's say you've got the person and you've got the team. You still run into another huge obstacle, that fundamental conflict between just running the day-to-day business versus trying to build the future. And this brings us to the core idea of ambidexterity. See, every organization has to master two things at once. First, there's exploitation. That's doing what you do now, just better, faster, cheaper. But at the exact same time, you have to get good at exploration, which is all about searching for what's next, taking risks, and learning from experiments. The problem is, the goals and the culture for these two things are almost always fighting each other. And this tension, it's not just a feeling or a cultural thing. It's actually baked right into the structure of the organization. It forces us to think about how we're designed to handle these two very different ways of working. On one hand, you have a mechanistic structure. It's got a clear hierarchy, lots of rules, and it's perfect for exploitation. It's built for efficiency and quality. But on the other hand, exploration, the heart of innovation, it thrives in an organic structure, one that's all about flexibility, autonomy, and super fast collaboration. Now, here's the kicker. It is not an either-or choice. As you can see, real innovation needs an organic start. You need that flexible, creative space to explore and figure things out. But then, it needs a mechanistic finish to successfully scale that idea into a reliable, profitable part of the business. So, the big question is, how do you actually build an organization that can do both of these things at the same time? Well, there are three main ways to do it. First, you can go for structural ambidexterity. You literally create a separate innovation lab. Or you could try contextual ambidexterity, where you give your existing teams the time and budget to explore new ideas. But the most critical part, the real secret sauce, is building strong bridges. These are your linking mechanisms to make sure those new ideas can actually get absorbed and scaled by the main business. All right, let's pull all these pieces together into something you can take away and use. When you boil it all down, it really comes to this. Intrapreneurs are the spark. They bring the energy and the vision. But it's the organization's job to provide the fuel and the engine, the right people in the right roles, the right structures, and those critical connections to actually complete the journey from a simple idea to real impact. So that leaves us with one final question, and it's one for you to think about when it comes to your own workplace. How ready are you really to nurture your next big idea? Think of this as your readiness checklist. So ask yourself, do we have the intrapreneur, that person with the idea and the drive? Do they have a powerful sponsor backing them? Is there a clear process for them to follow? Is there a flexible organic space for them to explore and even fail a little? And finally, is there a structured mechanistic path to help them scale up? If you can honestly say yes to all of these, then you're ready to turn your next great idea into your next great success.